The November patch notes have just been released, and it's time to see what treats lie ahead of us this month in version 1.33 of Tacticus. Today we'll dive into a new character, a lot of character updates, new relics, a mammoth month of monthly events, and a whole host of other improvements in this latest update. The last Adeptus Custodes, Tirith Shiva Kiris, the Custodian Guard, is unlocked in the Auric Champion event starting November the 2nd. And this is a very apt moment for me, as I've just finished reading Hands of the Emperor from the Horus Heresy books, which talks a lot about the Custodian Guard, so it's very cool for me to see one come to life in-game. As usual, just before her release, I'm going to do my usual deep dive, but for now I'll just give you a brief overview. In lore, the Custodian Guard are the main fighting force of the Adeptus Custodes. Each Custodian is individually engineered, personally crafted, and trained over decades to be the perfect guardian of the Emperor of mankind. Their job is simple, to protect the Emperor at all costs, and for most of the Imperium's history, they never left the Imperial Palace, even while the whole galaxy was burning around them, because their duty wasn't to the Imperium, but to the Emperor himself. That all changed after the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum, a vast warp rift that erupted across the galaxy at the end of the 13th Black Crusade, which was led by Abaddon the Despoiler, and during the fall of Cadia. Now they go where they're needed, and these golden gods stride into war zones, turning battles by sheer presence. Tirith herself looks like a very interesting character. She has the Adeptus Custodes trait, Martial Kata, which sees normal attacks against her reduced, and her damage against summons massively increased. She also has the Resilient trait, which means if you're brought down to 1 health, then you're not killed straight away unless you've been overkilled, and that just gives her a bit more sturdiness in defense. She has a 3-hit power melee attack, and a 2-hit, 2-range bolter ranged attack as well. Her passive, Unwavering Sentinel is a lot of fun for attackers and not a lot of fun for defenders, because after Tirith is attacked, and providing the attackers within 2 range, she will attack them back with a couple of bolter shots. Her active is Vigilance Eternal, and this is a bit weak by itself because all it does is let her jump and attack an enemy within 2 range, dealing 3 power damage attacks and letting her close the distance. The damage is a bit more than her normal attack, and she can do this every couple of rounds, and very simply, this is for use with others who boost or are boosted by non-normal attacks. And that could be Trajan, for example, who needs lots of actives to boost character damage. So very faction flavorable for sure. She does come with a relic, which is the Paragon Spear, and this makes all her crits max out in terms of damage when they happen, but also lets her attack an enemy within 2 spaces with 2 times bolter damage, again as a non-normal attack. That's really interesting because it's going to let her do a bunch of damage in the game, with this as well as her attack and then her passive doing more attacks, and I guess we can probably guess what that means for her Mythic Journey missions later, but we'll check those out when we get to the deep dive video. So overall, this looks like a really interesting character that fits very well into the Adeptus Custodes faction, and I'm really excited to get a closer look at her very soon. Next, I wanted to move any character updates into their own section, as I feel that these are generally so major we should be prioritising them, and there's quite a few improvements this month, starting with the Black Legion improvements as they continue their recent updates. First, there's a tweak to Abaddon's Relic, which sees the damage on the ability, Talon of Horus, increased by 76%, quite a whopping amount in truth. Then we move to the latest major rework, which is Angrax. His damage is increased by 58%, Bringer of Despair, his active ability's minimum damage is increased by 40%, and the maximum damage increased by 28%, and Hateful Assault, his passive ability, no longer grants extra damage when Angrax is charging an enemy. That didn't really do too much anyway, because generally Angrax wants to just be standing, whooping everything as they run away from him. Hateful Assault's damage has been reduced by 33%, but it now deals 2 power damage hits rather than 1 power damage hit. And this seems to be a change that we've seen in a few characters recently, where Snowprint seems to want to move to more hits on characters rather than less, and Mephiston was another example of someone that got got this and was very successful in his character. And Angrax is also going to get a relic, but I'm going to dive into that in the next section in much more depth. Next, it's an update I think we're all excited for, and that's Morgan Ra. And I think we're all really interested to see what the final form of the range team looks like after all the changes coming up, and how it impacts the meta, especially with the recent releases of Adamatar and Chiron, and I know I'm definitely keeping an eye on this. All we're missing now is the Volk update. For Morgan Ra, his health is increased by 27%, his armor is increased by 83%, and his active ability has been renamed to Harvester of Souls, and this now deals the same amount of damage to other affected units as it does to its initial target, and it's also had its damage increased by 25%. And like Angrax, he's received a relic as well, which we're going to look into more detail shortly. Finally, we have some improvements to the Death Guard, and for me this is a bit of a shock. I guess this must be in conjunction with the event that's going to happen this month for them, but Maladis is going to be the first one getting changed. His armor is increased by 22%, and his Haze of Corruption passive ability now deals 1 toxic damage instead of 1 power damage, which is great because that gives him even more damage, with it having a 70% pierce ratio and a 25% chance to contaminate the target hex. Its damage generally has also been increased by 100%, and he's also another one with a relic coming, which we're going to dive into shortly. So overall, Maladis, already a great champion, is about to be brought even higher. Castilian's the next one with a change, where he no longer explodes, instead he now putrid explodes. And putrid explosion trait now deals toxic damage instead of direct damage. And I want to say that I'm personally very happy to see all these changes coming into these different champions, and I hope that the balancing team of Snowprint continue to look at older champions, bringing their relevance up, because it's absolutely healthy for the state of the game overall. It's a very difficult challenge to do right, but I'm really happy at how it's being handled. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below. Something else that I'm really happy about is the fact that we're getting new relics being released, and this is really exciting for me because I think that every champion should have their relic to understand how it changes their character. We've already talked about Tirith Paragon Spear, but let's look at the others, starting with the Demon Flesh Plate that can be used by Rask, Toth, Maladis and Angrax, all very good champions, and this allows each champion to gain armor after every attack. Once it's been attacked 8 times, then its active ability is reloaded and can be used again. And I think this is especially useful for Angrax, who basically attacks much more than everyone else due to his passive Hateful Assault, and so he might have his active constantly armed and ready. For the rest, it's more defense and is very welcomed. Mogitar is only available to Morgan Ra, and if they haven't moved, but have attacked in a round, then they can move and attack again. Also, while overwatching, crits are going to deal an additional hit if they haven't moved at all last turn. So very cool and very thematic. One that I'm particularly excited about personally is the Norn Crown for Neurothrope, which increases the maximum level of neuroparasites available to Neurothrope, and all psychers and summons within Synapse range, which is 2 hexes, deals extra damage to enemies affected by neuroparasites. So my Mortarion Neurothrope team is going to be very excited to get this one maxed out. Finally, Adamatar gets a relic, but it's one that's already been released, and this is the Intoxicating Elixir relic that Chiron currently uses. And here the relic bearer deals extra crit damage for each unit within 2 range that is suppressed, stunned, taunted or thrilled, up to a maximum of 6 times, and the bonus is doubled if the relic bearer is at or below 50% health. And that's all the relics for this month, but I'm hoping to see more coming next month. As always, the monthly event starts with a new Battle Pass season. This time it's featuring Lucian, the Death Company intercessor from the Blood Angels, and it starts on October 26th. I've been talking a lot about Blood Angels recently, and they've positioned very highly in my strongest factions for the year, so definitely a good character to jump onto. Next, we have a pretty cool event, which is the Space Hulk Survival event. And this sees Baraquel as the playable character in Survival. The Survival deployable factions are Ultramarines, Black Templars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Space Wolves. And so it's all the Loyalist factions, although it's missing the Adeptus Custodes. And this is another really fun event that I can't wait to get my teeth into. Although for now, I don't have too many champions that's going to fit in here, as I've been neglecting all of these factions. However, I will do a follow-up video showing you this one in a bit more depth. One interesting thing is that when you start a match, match, we can see that there's a whole new biome inside a Space Hulk, and so for pure retro fun, I'm really happy to see this. I believe that this is the 5th one behind grass, sand, snow and Aldari, and we will talk more about this biome in another event shortly. As always, there's a ton of really great rewards here, including the forecast shards, and the battles will be very challenging to reach the later stages, so dive in and really enjoy this one. There are 2 tournament arenas coming up as always. On October 29th, we've got the Power-Ups rule set, which allows deploying machines of war, and then on November the 11th, we've got the Faction War Conquest, and the change here is that Tirith replaces Rosita as the 5th character for the Custodes faction, so you can get her a chance to have a little play with her early on. Legion has now been reduced to 2 Chaos Terminators since their characters got reworks. The Aldari have had 1 additional Harlequin added as a supporting NPC, and the Space Wolves and Black Templars have also had 1 additional Initiate added as a supporting NPC. So I guess those 3 factions have been lacking behind the others. Although I've heard a lot of good vibes from people about the Black Templars specifically, so I'm surprised to see that, but I guess the data behind it shows something different from what we feel. Then there's a brand new campaign event called Death Guard, which starts on October the 30th, and here you're going to play as the Adeptus Sororitas characters Vindicta, Isabella, and Rosita in the fight against Mortarian's Death Guard through the depth of a Space Hulk of the Plague Fleet. A new mechanic arrives in the Space Hulk tile set, Sealed Doors. As you move through the map, doors are going to block your path and conceal what lies beyond. Opening them will reveal new rooms, often filled with enemies, making exploration itself part of the challenge, and this sounds really cool to try out. As with all campaigns, you unlock campaign nodes and gain reward crates containing shards for different Death Guard characters, among other rewards. And as usual, at the start of each campaign event, you can choose which campaign to play, and this time it's going to be the new Death Guard event, or the already released Adeptus Mechanicus, Tyranids, or Tau Empire events. Personally, I'm going to be starting with the Death Guard ones to get as far as I can and get a handsome reward of loot though. The character release event we've already talked about, and that's for Tirith starting on November the 2nd. And then we have Guild Wars, and we've got some changes with them because the new Guild War season starts on November the 8th, and the leaderboard for Guild War leagues is now activated, ranking guilds over multiple seasons based on their accumulated war trophies. I'm really curious to see how this works and if it has a positive effect on our Guild War matchmaking experience, because right now it feels like we're either trash the opponents or we get trashed by the opponents, and there's very few close battles. I hope this eventually leads us to more balanced, tight matches. Also, for the top teams, there's been a change in Battlefield Level 5, and they're going to get 2 uncapped mythic lineups and 3 legendary lineups. Currently the HQ, fortified position, and armory, so we can start to see some real troops coming onto the battlefield. There are 2 upcoming quest events this month, and one of those has our most recent additions to the game, Adamatar. I really like how these ones work now because we always get 1 new character to play at a high level, and then a golden oldie. This time around, it's the Emperor's Children, Adamatar, who on November the 5th with all Chaos as allies, and they're fighting against the Tau Empire. Then we have the Tyranids Neurothrope on November the 26th, fighting with the Gene Stealers and Ultramarines as allies, fighting against the Aldari. Very interesting setup. Looking at the home screen events, the important thing to note here is that there's no overlap with the time-based campaigns, like the new Death Guard 1 or Incursions. So no need to specifically pick one of those just to get through the events. What I mean there is that I should have picked the Tyranid campaign last month to help me through the Tyranid home screen event, and I didn't. I'll try and check this moving forwards to help you prepare. This month we have the Training Rush returning from November the 4th to November the 7th, and here you just collect points to progress in the event by defeating enemies in all game modes. And this gives you a lot more XP for your characters, up to 5 times for mythic characters. Warp Surge returns from November the 14th to November the 16th, and this sees arena battles are going to start with 2 random demons on each side, and you're going to progress in the event by defeating chaos enemies in arena and campaign battles, and this gives you a lot more XP for your chaos characters, and so I want to see everyone using chaos characters from November the 14th to November the 16th. Then finally, Against the Tide returns on November 23rd to November 29th, and here you gain points for each enemy wave you defeat, and you claim the event rewards, which are including blessed requisition orders and some coins. The Incursion event starts on November 17th. There's no new Machine of War this month, but you can pick the usual bunch and includes the previously released Orc Buggy. Then for the Legendary event this month, we have the Adeptus Custodes Trajan, Captain General, unlockable in the second Gathering of Demigods event starting November 23rd. And you can learn how to open him in my Plan Now and get Trajan for free video. That series has really helped a lot of people as I get a lot of great feedback from it, so definitely worth a look for you. And finally, for Onslaught, there are 10 new tiers per each lane, and so we're now up to tier 151. And these enemies are getting quite handy as we are well into mythic enemies now. The Blessed Requisitions are here for the month, and these are really useful for people who are trying to get mythic characters leveled up. So I'm trying to save this for where I've got more mythic characters rather than less. Personally, I'm going to be aiming for that Legendary Event Squad requisition because all of them are really great champions that are part of my favourite mode. Next, we have the economy changes for the month, and we start with another update to the mythic items. We knew that there was going to be changes coming for all the mythic stuff as it was going to take some time to settle, and here it's focused on mythic items and relics that could not previously be unequipped. Now, when mythic items and relics are equipped to a character for the first time, they're bound to that character. Bound items or relics can be unequipped, but they remain bound to their character and can't be equipped by a different character. Mythic items are unbound though once a relic of the same type is bound to the character, and these mythic items can also be unbound by binding a higher level version of the same item. Finally, mythic items can be unbound in the forge for a cost. Relics cannot be unbound though. So once you get one and you give it to a character, you're stuck with that. Bound items have a special icon in their inventory to show their bound status, and with the release of version 1.33, currently equipped mythic items and relics are automatically going to be bound to the character they're equipped to. So overall, really great change there. For the Rogue Trader, there's an increased chance to find a random relic by 40%, and relics that can be equipped by multiple characters now appear twice as often as unique ones. All the new relics that we've released this month have been added to the list of relics that can appear randomly in the trader shop, and so overall another great change. And then finally, it's gifting season. We're coming up to Christmas, and it starts with a Thanksgiving offers calendar from November the 23rd to 29th, and I can tell you that there's definitely going to be a lot more coming in December, so keep your eyes on that. With the improvements this month, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to touch on the most important ones as I see them. And that starts with the improved shield behavior for characters, because now shields stack with each other unless otherwise specified. And that means a character like Rask and Thaumachus working together are going to be able to add a lot of shields to another character. So very interesting from that side. Next, when you're applying an active ability refresh to a unit that has an active ability that can be used multiple times per battle, for example like Tirith's active, then the cooldown of that ability can now be used in the same turn. And so this might be really interesting if you have Onshi and Carrion in the same team, because you're going to be able to hit his active a lot more, and it's already doing a lot of damage towards the end of the battle. Then if we move to the AI section, the Traitor Guardsman NPCs have had their Let the Galaxy Burn trait removed, and that's a really great thing because in the last Legendary event, these were a nightmare at chunking you down. Also, Jude and Mephiston are no longer going to use their active ability in the first turn when controlled by the AI. And I think this is going to be really great for Guild Wars and for normal arena because these are a pain. And I've talked a little bit about Mephiston in my last video where he can essentially destroy half your team right from the very beginning. Then finally, if we move to the Guild Raid section, there's been some adjustments for the Guild Raid maps in order to make it more beneficial for players. So I'm really looking forward to trying these out and seeing how it changes our tactics. Finally, here are all the bug fixes this month. Again, I'm not going to go through all these, I'll leave you just to have a little poke yourself. But the most important one of note was the damage done to Galatian being reduced in certain guild raids. Now all we need is for Gazgul and Rogel Dorntank to stop running him over and deleting 50k of his health instantly, and he's going to be a serious addition to the guild raids. All the rest of them are here. And so that's everything we've got for this month. What an incredible patch. It's absolutely ram-packed as you can see from the length of this video. But what's your favourite part of the patch? Let me and the developers know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.